Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkers podcast. So what have I been up to? I've been back in my mum's kitchen sorting out the mess in the cupboards, the mess on the cupboards rather. I managed to smooth out the paint and I just sprayed it. I got some just some canned spray. The cupboards come out really good. I've still got a couple to do, but the overall appearance of them is 100 times better. I don't think I'll ever use that chalk paint again. I mean, from what I understand, I don't know if it was formulated for this, but from what I understand, it's more for shabby chic, to give that distressed, worn look, and obviously it's easy to sand back, to get the corners revealed, or the bare wood revealed on the corners, and it does give a really good worn look. As best as I tried to make it look like new, on the cabinet doors, it still looks like old and worn. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave the chalk paint alone in future, unless I am trying to distress something, which I don't think I'm going to be doing anytime soon. But I say with the spray paint, they come out nice, really nice. It's been a nice little refurbishment. I haven't had to spend a lot of money type of thing, so it's been a nice DIY sort of thing with good results in the end. Still a little bit to go, but avoid the chalk paint if you want a professional look. Or the moral of the story: get a professional to do it. So back to something that I'm half decent at. I started making some coffee tables. I've got 2 coffee tables to make, 2 orders, which is quite good. So I've made a start on one of them. I did post some pictures the other day on Instagram, but it was more demonstrating the notch accessory. That's in my book. Today I actually just put a post out. I'm still getting I'm still getting DMs, and I'm still getting comments on my social media and such. People just quizzing us about the Roman workbench. So I did do a post today, basically advertising the book. The book is free. There's no sign up, no email. I don't want your email address or anything. It's just click on the link, and you can read the book, or you can download the book. So if you do want the book, if anyone has missed it, there'll be a link in the description. And please do us a favour, don't be shy and share it, because as I said, there is still a lot of people that are interested and they just don't know I've basically, I'm giving the book away. Basically, they don't realise that. So if you could share it, it would be a massive help to us. So going back to the Instagram post that I put up, this was using a notch accessory. I think it's a quite good picture, and it is kind of visually demonstrating what the notch is good at. So basically, in the picture, I've got the notch accessory set up, and I'm doing the top of a it's like a retro style coffee table. Excuse me. And basically, I've got it set up in a way where I don't have to use any wedges. It's just basically it slots into place. It butts against the notch accessory, and I can edge plane and I can end grain plane on it. Like I said, it didn't require any clamps. It didn't require any wedges. Something that big, it's really, doing something like this on one of these benches, it's really quick and easy. I think the problem is a lot of people just look at it and think, well, it hasn't got a vise. What am I going to do? How am I supposed to plane? How am I supposed to carry out tasks like that? For anyone that is interested, in work holding, viceless work holding and such, as I said, I think it's quite a good picture demonstrating. It's a very simple setup. There's nothing complicated about it, but what they say, sometimes the simple things are the best. So go and check it out if you're interested in viceless work holding. Links will be in the description. So I want to say a thank you to Lance Blurton. Yeah, I think I've said that right. I hope I've said it right. Lance bought me a coffee. Well, actually, Lance bought me several coffees. It was a very good donation to me. So I'm very grateful for that. Hey, Lance, if you're listening, thanks very much. Okay, so this week on What Impressed Me, Marshall Scheetz. I think I've said that right. You know, I'm terrible at pronouncing names and really bad. I should practice before I come on here. So Marshall is a barreling bucket maker, also known as coopering. So I'm not sure how long I've followed Marshall, but some of his posts have been catching my eye lately. It's the pictures have been, the pictures have been nice and sharp, and there've been some really good videos, some reels and stuff, or just videos in general. So as I keep on saying when I'm doing this podcast, I'm a visual learner, so I learn things from basically watching people. I don't need to hear what's going. I don't need to have an explanation. I don't need to read anything. That's just I learn like that. So other than that, the videos are really well shot. So Marshall, he does the coopering. It's like he does it the traditional way. So there's some great videos of him using a curved draw knife. There's axe work. There's videos of actually when they put the barrel together and actually have a fire inside the barrel, and this basically dries the wood out, because it's green wood that's traditionally used. He's got some videos of him actually shaping the sides of the components, actually putting a bevel on. For anyone that doesn't know, when they make a barrel, it's actually got a bevel on either side of the components of the lats, if you like, and that's what makes the curve in the barrels. So these bevels are kind of like a compound bevel, if you like. Not that I know a great deal about, it's just what I've seen, but basically from the centre of the lat, if you like, it'll bevel down or chamfer. No, it's not chamfer, more of a bevel, or it'll angle down from the centre, and it'll go narrow at either end. And obviously you've got your bevel, on the inside, and this is what creates the roundness of the barrel, plus the taper. If it's obviously a barrel tapers at the bottom and a tapers at the top as well. So some of it's actually quite interesting to watch. Anything like that, I love to see stuff like that. As I said, he's got some beautiful videos, when he's using the draw knife, and it's all all the wood's green, and he's getting some lovely shavings. It's quite relaxing to watch, strangely. So I'm going to leave a link to Marshall's Instagram, so go check him out. As I said, there's got some really good content. I'm not sure if he's got a YouTube channel or anything like that, but I'm sure all that information will be in the in his profile. Today I'm going to talk about glues. I've talked about glue ups, but today specifically I'm just going to go over glue. Just kind of what I use them for, my thoughts on them, the different brands, just things like that. I'm not going to go into a great deal of depth because to be honest, I only use 4 glues. I use three glues quite regularly, and one is a kind of a hitty missy, but obviously I'm going to go over a few things. So my favourite glue is PVA glue. I've had a lot of success with PVA glue, specifically Gorilla Glue. I absolutely love Gorilla Glue. I've tried like several other PVA glues. I haven't been totally keen on them, and I really like Gorilla Glue. It's never ever let us down. The PVA glue hasn't anyway. It's never let us down. I really love this stuff. So edge joints, it's a pleasure with edge joints. It can actually work for us and against us sometimes. The thing with PVA glue, especially here in the northeast of England in the summertime, when you're using it, it can actually grab the work quite well. So if I'm gluing up multiple boards, which I did the other day, I glue up it was 5 boards I glued up a couple of days ago, and it kind of was working for us because it was grabbing the boards while I was clamping this thing up. I actually, do you know what it is? I should actually do a video because it's probably actually quite hilarious watching this, because I literally get on top of this. I literally get on top of these boards, and I'm putting my knees, one way, and I'm, got me arms spread out. It kind of looks like I'm having a game of like Twister or something. All while doing this, I'm trying to crank up the clamp, just to bite the piece. But as I said, sometimes it can grab at certain points, and it can really help us out. And I can move forward and apply pressure elsewhere, and so on and so forth. But sometimes by the time you get to the end of the boards or wherever, you kind of, it might have grabbed it a bit too well. So sometimes you've got to go back, release the clamp a little bit, and you might have to get your mallet out or something like that. So it can be a hitty missy in that respect, but it's still my favourite, as I said, because once you've glued that up, it ain't going anywhere. I mean, like I said, I've never had a glue failure with that Gorilla Glue. So if something ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm kind of getting that from the Gorilla Glue. So I've got no intention at all of going for another brand or going for a cheaper brand. I'll always have Gorilla Glue, full stop. PVA Gorilla Glue is absolutely great. So kind of on joints in general, dovetails, same again with the dovetails. Once you get into position, them are glued up, that dovetails like really a strong joint to start with. So once you've got that Gorilla Glue on it, or the PVA glue, it's a really good joint. Same kind of problem with the dovetails. Anyone that follows us will know that I think personally dovetails should be a tight fit. It should be tight to the point where you have to tap them in with a mallet. I'm not talking about really hitting them within inches of the wood's existence, but I'm talking about a good firm hit with the mallet. Obviously working your way across the width of the boards that are glued up, i.e. if you're gluing up a blanket chest, so you might have 2 or 3 boards glued up, I believe you should have to work your way across. But the problem being with that, especially with the PVA glue, I find is that before you've got them seated into the shoulders, the joints seated into the shoulders, it'll grab, and I've had major headaches with this, because obviously I've had the joints or the chest roller fitted together without glue, and it's went together, obviously, as I've just stated there, I have had to use a mallet, and and that's what I believe you should do. But it's a bit of a catch-22, because when you do it, I always find the joints are sticking. I'll get halfway down and it'll be sticking, and it's just one of them, when you kind of just start rubbing your head and your eyes, and when you start getting angry. So same again, I've seen myself, I kind of jump on top of it, not literally jump on top of it, but I get on top of the box to use my weight, and I'll, while I'm kneeling on it, I'll just start tapping across, all the way, and normally that gets it down, but sometimes it can be really frustrating when I'm doing glue ups, things like that. with the dovetails. Mortise and tenon joints don't really have too much issue with that. With the mortise and tenon joints, I think probably one of the issues you do have with mortise and tenon joints is that you'll often get squeeze outs. Obviously, this happens with most joints, but obviously with a mortise and tenon joint that doesn't go all the way through, where the mortise doesn't go all the way through the components, you do tend to get squeeze out. How I try to avoid this is that I won't put any glue on the tenons. Everything just goes on the mortise, in the mortise hole roller. I know there's probably a lot of people that don't agree with that. It's the same way people don't agree with only doing one side of an edge joint, where I just don't see the point. I mean, I've talked about this before. I really just don't see the point in like putting so much glue on that when you put the clamps on, there's just like glue everywhere. It's just glue. It's just it's just like a bath of glue. It's just a waste, isn't it? I mean, I think for like a litre tub of Gorilla Glue, I think I'm paying at the moment, it's like $11.99. That's pretty cheap for me. What I've seen for a litre, I think it's a litre. It's one of the biggest ones I've seen. And I think, why waste it? But it's not just a fact of wasting it, it's a fact that it goes like all over. I've seen so many videos and pictures, and it's just like, I kind of fathom why people do it. It's just like there's glue everywhere, and it's crazy. Do you know what I mean? You're always going to get a little bit of squeeze out. It's inevitable, but I'm going to shut up now because it just annoys us. So bridle joints aren't too bad. You don't tend to get too much, grabbing with it as you're putting it together. But same again with a bridle joint. Once it's got a hold of things, it's the glue's got it, which is quite interesting, because when you look at a bridle joint, it's like a 90 degree, or it can be angled slightly, but normally they do tend to be 90 degrees, 80 degrees, 70 degrees, whatever. So it is when you're gluing the fibres up, they are kind of going cross grain fibres, if I'm making sense here. So the fibres on one component would be going 90 degrees to the other one, so you wouldn't get long grain to long grain gluing, which is always going to be your strongest your strongest glue if you're doing an edge joint, or just say you've got a 4-inch board, you're gluing two 4-inch boards together. That's going to be a really strong joint. You're not going to be able to like prise that apart or anything, whereas kind of a 90 degree angle, you would think that you would be able to get that apart. Well, again, for anyone that follows us on Instagram, that table what I done, the last dining table that I made, that kind of broke us physically and mentally. Well, before it got finished, or before I even started it, or I had a concept in my head and I started making kind of the frame. It didn't turn out well. I wasn't happy with how the frame was going. It seemed a bit flimsy. Obviously, I was making this for a client, and he was paying at the time. He was paying us a lot of money for the table, and I just wasn't happy to take a chance and send it to him. Deliver it to him rather. I just wasn't happy, so I basically scrapped it. The whole frame had to be scrapped. I basically had to cut it up. Quite a lot of it went for firewood. I was able to chop bits of it up and reuse bits of it, but there was quite a bit that went into the fire pile, unfortunately. But I had the legs. The legs were tapered, and they were hexagonal. So at the top of these is what I'd done. It was like a bridle joint basically. So I had the end rail going through the two legs at the top, and it was just a bridle joint. That's all it was. So obviously, these got glued together and stuff. So what a job I had trying to like snap them. I know that sounds a bit silly, but I was quite curious to see the strength of the joint and of the the glue and everything. So I decided to see if I could snap them, and I don't think I actually managed to snap them, to be honest with you. I was hanging off them. I was like literally like my weight was on them. I was kicking them. I was stamping on them. I give them some abuse, do you know what I mean? And in the end, I did. In the end, I ended up sewing them because I just couldn't break the joint. But that's quite a good testament to the glue itself. The PVA Gorilla Glue. By the way, I'm not associated with Gorilla Glue. It's just I really like it, and I think it's a good glue. But just what I've just been talking about there just goes to prove, if you've got a good joint and if you've got a good glue, if I had a centre table away, and I had been happy with the structure of the frame, there would have been no issue with that joint coming apart at all. As I said, the joint was strong, it was excellent. The joint, it was just the frame itself. I just wasn't happy with the frame. That's kind of one of the reasons why I like PVA glue so much. Next on the list is super glue. Now, I'm not sure if there's a lot of people that actually use super glue in woodwork, and in general, I know there's there is a few of that do it for reasons I'm going to go over now, but I don't really see a lot of people kind of big it up a lot, but I think it's actually really good. I mean, I think primarily with super glue, what I tend to use it for the most are those little repairs. I think I've done a shorts video. I did. I've done a shorts video on basically repairing a dovetail. It was actually the tail section, I believe. I don't know, what did I do to it? I can't remember if I was playing and I've probably being not being careful, probably. And I've done a video on that. That'll be on YouTube. It's probably on Instagram as well. If you want to check those out, there'll be links in the description. So that's primarily what I use it for. It comes in really, really handy. I mean, obviously for things like that. Another thing I'll tend to use it for as well is when I get material. See, I get some oak boards. I might be planing those oak boards, like edge jointing them to join up, for a coffee table, dining table, whatever it may be. And there might be some damage on the edge, kind of. There might be a big chunk of the edge not missing, but it's actually fractured or whatever. There's been something's happened somewhere down the line from them processing it to it going in my car, to me driving it home, to me transporting it into my garden after the car. Somewhere along those lines, whether it be the person who I've bought the wood off or myself, there's been some fracture in the wood. So I don't know why it is, and I'm thankful that I always stop myself. But anytime I see some sort of a fracture like that on the edge, there's fibres coming out, I always go to grab it and I always want to just pull it off. I don't know why. Even after all this time, after the many times I've seen it and the many times I've repaired it, I don't know why there's still an urge to basically get it and pull it off. I've absolutely no idea why, but as I said, I'm glad I don't. So with things like that, straight into my shed, get the super glue and the accelerator out. So I buy these, I have been buying these for a while now. Ironically, it's out of the same shop. There's a boys on the High Street, South Shields High Street, and I just get it's sold as like a mitre kit, mitre glue kit for picture frames and whatever else it advertises itself as. As I said, straight into the shed, whack the super glue on, and I just use my knife, or it might just be like an edge of a piece of wood. Sometimes my pencil, push it into place, get the accelerator, put the accelerator on, give it a few seconds. I let go of it. I leave it for a minute or two, and I'm ready to go again. I'm ready to plane. So it's really good like that. I mean, the thing about it is, sometimes the fracture can look so little, and as I said, me personally, I'm always tempted just to pull it off. But the problem with that is when you pull the edge off, especially when you're joining boards, it's going to show on the boards, and sometimes, you might be looking at it and it might only look like, 1 to 2 millimeters, but when you're planing, or if you're trying to get that out with a card scraper, it's going to take you a bit of doing, depending on where it is, because if you're going to try and take it out with a plane, when your boards are glued together, you kind of just, if you can imagine a flat surface, you can't just take that out. Do you know what I mean? It's, you'd have to flatten like a bigger area than that, and if you flatten a bit bigger area, you're not flattening the area. You're going to be taking you're going to be making a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for here? A concave, in a flat surface, basically a hollow. It's the same again. It's if you use a card scraper as well. Sometimes you can get away with little things like this, and I do things like this. Not necessarily with with the edge away. There might be a little dent in it or something. And sometimes rather than take it out with steam, I might just take the card scraper out. Something little like that. Sometimes it's totally fine, but if there is a big chunk missing. So that is a good repair, a good use of the super glue, and that's primarily what I use it for. Another good use of super glue is kind of just keeping things temporarily in place. If you've got like any little blocks, I can't really think of anything like offhand, but if you've got like little kind of couple of little blocks you need to keep together, for some sort of marking out or whatever. I mean, what I have used in the past, I might have used like a couple of chocks of wood to build some height up for to basically to fix me pencil to mark out for legs when I've been leveling legs. I've done it a few times that way, so it's quite handy there. So basically a couple of dabs. I've actually done it with my wedges as well. I might have a wedge. I've had a wedge, obviously what I use on the Roman workbench, and then I've just had to get a piece of wood. These are just scraps of wood. I don't want to waste time cutting pieces of wood and whatever else. I basically just get what's the hand, if it's a correct thickness, there might be a wedge, and then I might have like a square piece, and it might be massive compared to the wedge, but I'll dab a couple of bits of, glue on, super glue, the activator spray on it, and put it into position, and I'm good to go, Ideally for that, I know I should be going out and I should be making a dedicated leg marker, if that's the correct word. I don't even know if that's the correct word for it, but I'm sure you can grasp what I'm talking about. And I have been toying with the idea, but again, anyone that follows us, I'm kind of bad for that. There's ideas float around in my head for such a long time, and it takes us such a long time to to basically make them. I should actually put more of an effort into doing things like that, to be honest with you. But that's like another good use. And my final use for super glue, which people will probably cringe at, and they'll probably think I'm an absolute lunatic, but gluing myself back together. Yeah, that's kind of my go-to. if I've cut myself and I look at it and it won't stop bleeding, if it looks like I need stitches, I'll literally just get the super glue and basically just put it on my skin. For anyone that's used super glue, they'll know that when it goes on the skin, if you put it in between two fingers, you've got to be careful because you'll just stick your two fingers together. It's super sticky on your skin. So any cuts that are really bad, where I think I need stitches or anything, I'll clean it up and then I'll super glue the thing together. But that's just me, Call us crazy if you want, I don't really care. Next up is epoxy. So epoxy, I kind of like it and I don't like it. I should wear gloves when I use it. I don't, and it gets on my hands, and I know it's not good when it gets on your skin. No glue's good when it gets on your skin, but I think epoxy's like a bit worse than other glues. But I never learned my lesson because it goes on my skin, and I hate the feeling of the epoxy on my skin. Super glue as well. I don't like the feeling of super glue on my fingers. That it kind of goes through as if you understand what I mean by that. It's just not a nice feeling on your skin. I don't like the two of them on my skin. However, one of the places I do use epoxy for is mortise and tenon joints. More so on TV cabinets. I haven't made one for a while now, but I was making these they're very simple, they're very square, blocky looking, but they used to sell quite well. And they've got mortise and tenon joints going through the bottom of this TV unit. The legs are slightly splayed out at 45 degrees. I think the actual angle is like 15 degrees. They're kind of on a 45 degree angle to the corner, like pointing out towards. And that's, I can't remember the reason why, but I started using epoxy on these rather than the PVA glue. And I've just kind of used it that way like ever since. Anytime I make these cabinets, it's kind of a bit of a ritual now. I've kind of got to use epoxy on these mortise and tenon joints. So probably the thing I like about these about using the epoxy on the mortise and tenon joints is that it dry, like, because I use 2-minute epoxy. So 5-minute epoxy. I use the 5-minute epoxy, so it dries really quickly. And I'm kind of ready to go. So what I'll do, I get the 4 tenons fit into the 4 mortises, get them ready. Same again, I'll only apply the epoxy to the mortises. These are always through mortises, they just go through the bottom of the base. The base is like usually about 21 millimeters or an inch in thickness. So they've got haunches on them as well. And basically just hide in, let them sit, make sure everything's seated properly on the shoulders and on the haunches. When I'm happy with that, obviously, I've got the thing turned upside down so the feet are pointing to the sky. I'll literally go in the house, maybe make myself a cup of coffee or whatever, or I'll twiddle on my phone for 5 to 10 minutes, I go back and I'm pretty much ready to get working again. I think that's one of the sellers with it, kind of go back. I can trim the tenons that are protruding through, trim them down, and like I said, that's, end of story. Whereas if I was doing that with the PVA glue, it's probably going to be a different story. I tend to find when I'm using epoxy, I don't tend to like clamp things up like too much, especially for the mortise and tenon joints. There's just no need for it, because they're a nice fitting joint to start with. This, I always get them seating quite well, so I never tend to clamp those up. So another good thing about the epoxy, what I find, is that it kind of acts as the lubricant for the mortise and tenon joints. When I'm putting these mortise and tenon joints in, before I'm gluing them up, as I always say, I believe joints should be like a nice snug fit, a nice tight fit. So sometimes when I'm putting the mortise and tenon joints in, I've got to wiggle them in, and then when you're trying to get them out, you kind of just pull them out. You've got to kind of pull and wiggle them out. And it can take quite a bit of force to put them in and to take them out. So what I like about the epoxy is that, when it first goes on and you push it in, it just basically acts as a lubricant, to a point where you put them in and you think, if you didn't know any better, you'd think, wow, that joint's super loose, I'm a bit worried about that. That's how easy it can go in with the epoxy resin. So that's something I really like about that. Another thing with the epoxy resin, I kind of use it on, splits in the wood. Obviously, I know a lot of people do this. A lot of people colour it as well. They'll get like, colour pigments, and they'll, it's not quite a river table, but some people do actually just do this in cracks. It depends, because there's people that do that, and then there's people that just like to stick, the dovetail, the bow ties in. I think they can look nice, the bow ties, but I think sometimes it just takes a bit too much, work to do. Obviously, if a client asked for that, I would do that. Or if that particular day, looking at the wood and whatever else, and I felt it would look good or it needed it, I would kind of do that. But other than that, I just, basically just put the epoxy in. Depending on the size of the crack, normally is what I can do. I can just basically put some masking tape on the bottom of the wood. Obviously make sure it's, it's nice and straight. Take that up to the end grain, mask it at the end grain, and just basically pour the epoxy in. I think I've done that quite a lot of times. I think that's pretty much my go-to when I've got cracks. Same again though, when you put the epoxy in, 5 minutes, and you're good to go. I think is what I do tend to do with the epoxy resin when I'm doing like, fills like that. I tend to do them in two parts. If it's like a deep piece of wood, maybe it's a slab or something like that. So I'll get quite a big lump, quite a big like batch of the epoxy, and I'll put it in, because I don't buy the I've never ever went out and bought like a tub of epoxy. It's always just been the little applicators where you've got the two separate barrels, and you just basically push the application trigger, if you will. To be honest, you don't really get a lot of epoxy, but at the same time, I don't really tend to like kind of do a lot of filling of cracks. It's only like occasionally I do it. I have done a lot in the past, but in the bigger scheme of things, it's not like a massive amount. So sometimes it can take like 2 or 3 of these these 2-barrel thumb application thingy bobs, whatever you want to call them. So I actually just get these from Poundland in the UK. Anyone that's in the UK and they're listening, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Just Poundland. I I think in the US, maybe the dollar store, the 99-cent store. I'm not sure what you guys have got over the pond. So it's actually quite good epoxy. Where you can kind of gauge if your epoxy is good is if it's like really stinks, if it's really like pongy, like you kind of sniff it and it'll knock your head back sort of thing. That's when you know it's good epoxy. I don't know if actually that's safe for you to be sniffing epoxy, but that's kind of how you know it is good epoxy, because it'll really, really stink. Kind of not all epoxies are made the same. I suppose it's the same with most glues as well. Ironically, I got some Gorilla glue. When was it? It may have been sometime last year, and I was deeply disappointed because obviously I've just bigged up the PVA Gorilla glue, best glue in the world. I'll never ever change. But the epoxy, I don't know what's happening. Gorilla glue, you just kind of want to sort that out because it's just not happening. I used it and it was kind of more like a, how can I describe it? It was more like a rubbery finish, where the epoxy what I normally use, that's kind of a more like solid, like kind of, like a, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a, like the plastic glass kind of material, the Perspex. It's kind of got that finish to it. It's hard, it's solid. But this Gorilla one, Gorilla epoxy, was like a kind of like a rubbery texture. That's all I can describe it as, and I kind of wasn't like happy with it. Because it kind of felt like there was movement in the joint when I used it. So I was kind of, kind of not happy with that. That might be a good thing or it might be a bad thing. But when I was kind of analysing it and there was movement, and I'm kind of not happy with that. I mean, to be honest, it was just because I couldn't get anything else at the time. And I caught my eye on the Gorilla epoxy and I thought, Bob's your uncle, that'll do. Obviously with the PVA being so good, but obviously I got let down with that. So yeah, it's one of those. But as I said, not all glues are created equally. So last one on the list, very quickly because I am running out of time here. Old hide glue. I haven't really had a lot of experience with hide glue. Have I used traditional? I think I've used traditional hide glue once. Other than that, it's just been the bottled stuff, like cold hide glue. I haven't had a great deal of results from it, although I do see the not importance, but I do see the merits of using it. Obviously, I understand why, musical instrument makers use it, obviously, because guitar makers and whatever else, because they're able to reverse the hide glue. I can see the merit in that. It's a no-brainer, that. So I mean, I probably am going to experiment with it in the near future. I did actually have a go with it not so long ago with some dovetails, and I just found it was grabbing. Me logic was that me dovetails are pretty tight to start with, so I could probably get away with a lesser glue. And I'll go out on a limb here, and I will say it's a lesser glue. I will say PVA glue is stronger than hide glue, and I'll argue the toss with that. My personal experience anyway, what I've experienced, it's just not as strong. But obviously when I was using the hide glue, and it was just grabbing too quick again, so I would actually like to have a go with some epoxy resin, but that would mean I'd have to get not the 2 hours, not the 5 minute stuff. But yeah, I mean hide glue, I have had a couple of failures with it when I was experimenting with it, but as I said, I haven't experimented a great deal with it. I can't really delve a lot more into high glue because, as I said, I haven't experimented a lot with it. So yeah, I'm going to call it a day. Again, thanks to everyone, all my new subscribers, stuff like that. Absolutely awesome. Thanks very much for sharing the videos and whatever else. Really appreciate it. Again, any ideas, drop us an email, drop us a comment, whatever. And until the next time, I shall speak to you later.